And I'm nowhere near the expert he is, but I have learned how to use Photoshop for my own family history pictures. So it's kind of, that's why I called it an introduction, because and you might at the end of it say, well, you know, most of what she said I already knew from the other programs, so I can figure out from the other programs. But I think that it is still good for us to say what is available for us to do to our pictures. Photoshop, which is an Adobe program, is the program. I would call it a gold standard. There's maybe somebody that knows more about photo editing than me that would say not quite, but nonetheless, it is a very good program. It is very expensive. It's cheaper if you buy it if you're a student. But they have then Photoshop Elements, and Photoshop Elements is pretty much an affordable program, which has many of the same features, and pretty much all the ones that we would need for basic photos for family history are in the Elements program. So I like that because it makes it more affordable. Now, there are still a lot of people in our states who would be better off not spending $100 on a program if they didn't need to, which is why we have a copy of it in the Family History Center. And it is in the Family History Center in the back room in the corner next to the color printer. And I frankly would be happy if more people use it than have used it, because I think it is a resource that is valuable to us.
You have to use it
Yes, John.
on your own computer, or can you go to can you use it on your own computer? Or do you have to go to the Family History Center?
You can use it on your own computer if you want to buy it. I looked on Amazon this afternoon and it was $92 on Amazon for the Elements. I forget what Photoshop the complete program is, but it is $200 or $300 or $400, but it comes in a suite with all of the other main Adobe programs. So there are
Family History Center already.
Yes.
You said it's in a closet.
No, it's in the back corner. So if you walk through the double door and walk clear to the back wall, it's on your right-hand side. So right there we have our color printer and we have the computer that has Photoshop Elements. So look for it the next time you're in the Family History Center. Now, the first thing you have to do when you're getting a photo ready for memories, because technically, you know, that might be what you would say is tonight's lesson is getting a photo ready to put in memories. When you're doing that, the first thing you need to do is get an electronic copy. Now, sometimes a relative will give you an electronic copy. More likely, you will come across old pictures that some member of the family has been saving. My daughter-in-law, just when her mother died, came up with a pile of like 4 or 6 inches tall of family pictures that her mother had. Now, how her mother ended up with these, I really can't quite figure out, nor can I figure out how it is that they were blessed that they didn't get thrown away, because the mother was pretty much of a vagabond. And so for this pile of pictures to survive was wonderful. So when you get a picture, what do? How do you scan it into your computer? Pretty much you have to have a scanner or a printer that is also a scanner. And that's what I have, and that's what people would use if they go to the Family History Center to scan pictures. And I think it's good to have either an external hard drive that you use just for pictures, or else have a flash drive that you can use to keep pictures on. So at the Family History Center, the scanners at the Family History Center, I'll have a port, a little port that the flash drive slides into. My printer scanner doesn't have that, but so I have to plug it into my computer and use my computer. And there are pages of instructions on how to scan using the Family History Center printers. They're taped to the wall by the printers at the Family History Center. At my house, I have to figure out how to get the computer and the printer hooked together. And I was delighted. I didn't, when I got my computer, an icon never showed up on my screen to show me this is how you scan. So I was really pleased when I figured this out. So now I'm going to go to share screen for a minute. And so here is my screen. And can you see how down here at the bottom, there is a search button? If you go to the search button and you type in the word scan, it says that the best match is the Windows Fax and Scan app. And I click on that, and that's how I get into the scanning program. Pretty easy. It just took me a long time to find it. On this scanning program, and it's the one that is built by Hewlett-Packard to match my printer, up here is the word New Scan. And so I click on New Scan, and I don't currently have my printer plugged in because it's on the other side of the room. So it's telling me couldn't find a scanner. But if the scanner was there, then it would automatically start. If I was plugged in, it would automatically start to scan. And one of the things it would ask me is, how big of a file do you want? And usually it starts at 200 dots per inch, DPI. But you want a better photo than that if you're doing family pictures. So I changed that to 600. You could even change it higher. And then it asks you which format you want this picture in. And most of the time, we're going to choose JPEG. JPEG is the everyday photo one. If you're planning on using this picture in a book that you intend to print, then you would want to switch it to a TIFF, T-I-F-F. But usually we're going to use a JPEG. And so when the machine's finished, it's going to tell me that an image number such and such has been scanned. And then I say, well, I want to rename it, and I rename it. And that is how I acquire my photos. Now, how do each of you have available a printer that you can scan from, or would you be going to the Family History Center? John, you'll have to unmute so that I can hear you. And I think it's fine if we all make comments during the lesson, especially with this few of us.
I said I have a printer.
Do you have a printer that does scanning at home?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know how to use it?
Yes.
Good. Angel, do you have a printer that does scanning?
No, but my mom does.
But your mom does. Okay. Diane, do you scan your own pictures? Okay. And Chestnuts, do you have a printer that scans?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we all have a new resource that we didn't have before, and we are still in the process of getting it up and running, but that is a high-speed scanner that you can put a whole pile of pictures in, and it scans them all. And that's going to be wonderful as we get it learned about and get it all up to running in our Family History Center. And this is something that we should invite friends to use, because if we're lucky enough to have it, it ought to be used. So once we get the photo scanned, the next problem is, how do we find it later? And I think all of us should take a few minutes and figure out where in our computer are we going to store pictures, and how are we going to make them findable? I have in my picture file on my computer, I have a file called Historic Photos. And then I have lots of subfolders. I have Charles and Nancy. And under it, I have each of our children as a child, and each of our children as an adult, and each of our children with their families, and a folder for portraits that were taken. I have a subfolder for each surname in both my husband's and my family's genealogy. I have subfolders for his mother's scrapbooks. I have lots of subfolders that pretty much have enabled me to be able to store things in a more or less findable manner. If I had every picture tagged in a tagging software, and one of those comes with Photoshop, actually one comes with Photoshop Elements, then I could make them easier to find. Today, as I was looking for a picture to use as a sample for this class, I didn't find the picture I wanted. So obviously my system's not good enough yet. What systems do you use so that you can find your pictures? Any answers?
So many years ago, I got a external drive, but I'm finding that it's starting to fill up pretty rapidly.
Maybe because your memory's full.
One of the problems I have is that I have lots of duplicates in my photos. Is that the same with you?
I bought a product
Yeah.
called,
No. I want to do something.
Whoever is talking, you're coming across on our screen as iPhone. So we don't know who you
Diane
are.
Okremenko.
Oh, hi, Diane. Okay.
Hello.
I bought a product called Photo Stick,
There.
and you can pull all the photographs off your computer.
Does it work?
Yes. And it
I
does
bought
not-
one and it's not big enough for my photos.
Well, they just came out with a 64 gigabyte one,
Okay,
so that should be big enough.
okay. They claim that those eliminate duplicates. I don't know. I'm not trusting enough to be able to trust that it would eliminate the duplicates and not eliminate ones that I didn't want eliminated. But we need, our family photos are valuable enough that we need to think about what system are we going to use. My daughter likes her external hard drive. This last week, she called me and said, I need a picture of our family when I was a child. Would you send me one? And I said, yes, I'll be glad to. But you could look in the large flash drive that I gave you for Christmas a couple of years ago. And this is the folder that it will be in on that flash drive. And she called me back 2 minutes later and said, got it. I think that an advantage of flash drives and all of these other methods are that we can share within our family. And I hope that people who have the wonderful picture that they've been holding on to because they cherish that they're the one that has that picture. I hope that they will be generous and share a copy of that picture with us. In many cases, I don't care if I have the original as long as I have a copy. So I'll tell a story. This afternoon, as I was looking at pictures to get ready for this lesson, I saw a picture that said Charles and Leroy. And so I looked it up and said to Charles, oh, somebody is standing beside your dad. In the picture, Charles was 3 years old, and that's how old he was when his mother remarried. And so he was there with his new stepfather and a stranger. And I knew the stranger was a friend, probably from the Army hospital in Brigham City, because he was standing on one leg. And so Charles's dad was an amputee, and lots of his friends from that hospital were amputees. And Charles said, oh, that's Dennis Denophon. And I thought, I wonder if Dennis Denophan's family would like a copy of this picture. I looked on Family Search to see if I could find Dennis Donovan, and all I knew was his name and his approximate age. But I found a picture of Dennis Donovan who had a source of Find a Grave, and I looked in Find a Grave, and there's a picture of him with his Army cemetery stone that listed Purple Heart. So I think it's very likely that that is his friend Dennis Donovan. And so somebody had edited that page, and when I clicked on the edit information, it gave me their email. So I sent them an email and said, with a copy of this picture, and said, is this your Dennis Donovan? And do you have a copy of this picture? And could I put it on Family Search? And they could put it on Family Search too, since I gave them the picture. It's possible that this is a picture that they didn't have a copy of and that they would like to have. So, you know, to be generous. Okay, so now we've got the picture and we need to look at it. So now I'm going to go back to screen share, and I'm going to open up Family Search Elements. If I can figure out how to turn off this scanning program, then I will go back to Family Search Elements. And this is a picture that I found to talk about some of the principles that we would use when we scan a photo. This is a picture of my mother-in-law when she was an infant and her brother Charles. And this picture shows some of the signs of wear that a lot of our old pictures show. So sizing is something in some cases I'm going to want to do. So for example, if this was a wonderful picture and I wanted to change it to 5x7 photo, I could go to Image, and under Image I could choose Resize, and I could choose Image Size, which I would then say that I wanted it to be a 5x7. I would change the window screen so that it said 5x7, and then I could save it, and then from then on, that picture, if I wanted to print it, would print out as a 5x7. And I think if it's a picture that we're going to print out, sometimes it's good to have that size locked in. If I would have saved it as canvas size as 5x7, then it would have put a white border around the picture, and it would have been a 5x7 picture. Now, straighten. Over here are the different tools that we have, and this tool here is the straighten tool. Now, what I would use the straighten tool for is to get this picture so it's not at an angle. So as you can see, somehow in the scanning, this picture was crooked. So if I take this little
text message
cursor of whatever kind its name is, and put it at the top, and then hold my mouse down and draw the line across the top of that picture, and then release it, it's going to turn it so that it's straight. And there are just lots of times when we like to have that straight. Now it's got all kinds of stuff at the sides and bottoms that I don't want. So this is the tool over here that is the crop tool. And without me touching it, it sort of found its own place. Usually you have to draw the lines around where you want it to be.
text message
Down here, if I like it, I choose the green arrow. If I don't like it, I choose the red no line. So now I've got that so that it does not have anything around the edge. It's just the picture. So far I have used the tool sizing tool and cropping tool and straight line tool.
Yeah.
Now, what do I do with all of these lines? It is remarkable what Photoshop has developed. If I come over here to the Band-Aid, you see this little Band-Aid? That Band-Aid is the healing brush. And it is remarkable how it will actually heal a picture. Now down here, I choose my size, and I want the size to be big enough to cover this line. So this is barely going to be long enough. And look at how this works. I push down my mouse button, and then I draw this brush with my mouse across and let loose, and that folding torn line disappears. Isn't that remarkable? Now right here is just a dot. So I'm just gonna click on the dot, put the dot inside my brush, because this is the brush, the thing I'm moving around. And I can get rid of the dots that were in that corner. Now I could do this really long line. Watch what happens when I do this really long line. I'm just going to do this really long line and go across all of the picture. And somehow or another, Photoshop averages things. Now, does that look the way I want it to look? Absolutely not. So I use this really neat tool that they've got that's called Control-Z. And Control-Z means backup. So when I hit Control and Z, the line came back. Now I'm going to use that brush again, and I'm going to start at the top, but I'm just going to go across the part that has the same color. So I'm going to stop when I get down here to the blanket. Ah, that's better. It's still not quite the way I want it, so I'm going to undo it again. And I'm just going to do, say, maybe this much. Okay, that's better. Let's see what happens if I just go down and do it one dot at a time. It's not getting rid of it quite the way I want to. So I'm going to have to play with it. Let me come down and do this little line. Well, that line worked pretty good. Let's see about these two dots. So I think you can see that sometimes it's going to work and do exactly what you want, and sometimes it's not. And when it doesn't, then that's when you use the Control-Z. Now, in order to do some of the parts of this, like maybe his feet, I'm going to want to have this a bigger picture. So I'm going to use Control+ and make it bigger. Now, no, that didn't, I need to get the hand so that I can move up the picture. Now I can see that his foot is going to take a lot more work. I'm going to need to, I need to go back to the healing brush. I'm going to want to change the size of my brush, I think. But there's a lot here that I can do a little bit at a time, and changing the size of the brush as I need to. Over here, it's going to be easier on the blanket. To do it now. A lot of this is tedious work, and I'm not going to take the whole lesson time to go over the tedious work. Let's go back to Charles says he thinks I should take the picture back down to a size we can see. I am trying to find, oh, I know why I can't find it. It's because my Zoom meetings is in front of it. When I just have the plain picture up, it gives me some options over here of things I can do. One of the things I can do is I can do a smart fix, and I can do an auto and see what it does. Now, I don't know if you noticed that the color change just happened just a little bit. As I did that automatic, it came up with a better coloring. Now, if I want to really goof up the coloring, that I wouldn't choose that one. If I chose auto, it's going to choose the color. So I can use that as an auto. Sometimes the coloring is bad in an old photo and you want to get rid of some of it. Like there, it's kind of yellow. Boy, there'd be really bad, wouldn't it? So you can change these and choose which one you like. Sometimes you like the auto, sometimes you don't. I think that time I didn't like the auto. Sharpen is one that makes a lot of difference. Sometimes if you do sharpen, either using the auto or trying each of the options. Oh, so far, these are getting much worse, aren't they? So a lot of this is, let's really do some backs on that one. Now I think I need to go back to the color. No, way too dark. So the more bad shape a picture is in, the more fiddling you're going to have to do. And I suppose that someone like Brother Roach could look at that picture and say, oh, it needs more color and it needs more saturation or it needs more hue or it needs more vibrance. And he would be able to tell us immediately what. Whereas I would need to play and play, especially with a picture as bad as this one. One of the other things, and I should have found a picture of this in to use as a sample, but one of the other things that is very important is sometimes the background on a photo is totally disruptive. I don't think I could find it fast enough. But I have a picture of my 5 siblings and my dad. The first time we were all together after my dad's funeral. And I'm really glad we took a picture that day. But the picture has we're all sitting in front of and standing in front of a great big picture of George Washington crossing the Delaware. Now, I like that picture of George Washington crossing the Delaware, but it was very disruptive when you were trying to look at 5 siblings and our dad. So how do you get rid of that background? It would be kind of the same as if I wanted to get rid of the lions behind me here. You just want to get rid of them. And there are 2 main ways to get rid of them. Photoshop Elements only has one. The 2 methods are lasso or make a selection and a clone. And so this is one of the tools that I have not practiced with as much as some. To make a selection, you click on the Make a Selection tool, and then you draw a line around what you don't want a picture of. And it seems to think I want it where that crack is, and I don't. So, Control Z to get rid of it. Control Z, there, we got rid of it. But maybe if I were to very carefully, and I probably would do this with a mouse that wasn't connected to my laptop, and I would probably do it first by enlarging the picture, but I could go around this picture, and I would have to figure out what I would want to be doing is going around the outside of his body, not enclosing his body. But that's a lasso. And then when you're finished with the lasso, you can collect it and it will remove what is within that lassoed space. Now, like I said, I wouldn't want to take away Charles's face there. And if I had done it with a larger picture and with a mouse that was independent of my laptop, it would have been easier for me to have gotten a good lasso. But it would have taken away, and if I did it carefully, I could take away all of the parts of the background that I didn't want. And then I could take them away, and then I wouldn't have a background. Then later I would want to go in and put in a different background. And there's different ways to do that. But probably you would use what Photoshop calls layers. And that's a little bit more of a complex lesson than tonight. But I wanted you to see that you could do this. And if I was trying to get rid of the background on this photo, I would take some time and do that. Maybe I would also want to lighten the background. The background is pretty dark. And if I lighten the background, it would probably do a better job of showing them. I wish I had a picture. I wish I had found a picture that wasn't quite this bad, but most of those I've already fixed. The clone tool, which is in Photoshop, but not in Photoshop Elements, it's kind of like a little stamp. And so I would take my brush and I would put it on the part of the background that I liked. Then I would take it over and stamp it someplace else, and it would take whatever was over here and stamp it there. So with a picture of my siblings and my dad, I used that tool by going to the blank wall above our heads, away from the painting, and then I just stamp at a time away from, until I had gotten rid of the whole background by stamping. Some of these are kind of tedious, but can you imagine how much nicer it would be to have this particular picture in a, now I have to get rid of this. Well, that did not accomplish what I wanted it to, did it? To get rid of this selection. And my Control Z ought to work.
You probably have to do several to get
Do
back.
what, Rick?
Hit Control Z several times till you get back to that.
Well, I've done it several times. It has. Oh, now it's finally working. Okay, I just hadn't hit it enough times. Now the next tool that I wanted to tell you about was text. So you click over here on text, and then it allows you to draw a text field. And if that's where I want it, then I would click. Whoops, didn't save it, did it? Let's do it again. That's how, with me in Photoshop, a lot of it is trying again. Okay, now I'm going to go to, down here it says that what font I've got. That's not probably the font I would usually choose, but let's use it. Let's put down Uncle Charles. Okay, Rick, you might be able to tell me why it's not working.
I don't know. I was watching your bottom thing there.
Okay, well, text. Draw the text field. Now I would think that I have to check the green check mark. Okay, and I touched it instead of clicking it hard. Now, will it begin to type for me? No.
You've got to double click in the box to fill it in.
Is that what I have to do?
Yeah.
Now, before that happened, okay. Now, whoops. So should I click the sign, or should I double click first and then type?
Double click inside the box.
Okay, I've done more than double.
That's weird. Let's see.
You gotta right click and then left click.
Now, the other thing that you do is when something doesn't work right, you go up to the help word and you click on it, and then you look it up. Okay, should I type before I click yes? Before I click the green check mark?
Yeah, I think the check mark is to show that that's what you want after you put it in.
After I've typed?
Yeah. You got to click either a right or a left click.
Okay, I just clicked a left click, and that gave me that other set of options.
Well, now click the right click.
My husband says just type. Typing just typing didn't work. Do I need to choose the kind of? Okay, so I didn't succeed in showing you that one at all, did I? But there are often times when we're going to want to write down to label the photo, especially I think if we're going to print the photo. We very likely are going to want to print the caption right on it. So the main tools that we've used are the lassoing, which takes practice, and we didn't succeed in showing you. This tool gets rid of a red eye if you have a red eye in your photo. This tool will whiten the teeth of the person in the photo. This is the tool that makes it straight when it's on crooked. Texting, healing brush, and the crop tool, and moving the photo out of the screen. So like that was what I was doing when I moved it away. Those are the main things that you will use a Photoshop for as you do your photos. And yes.
On your T, your type over there, where on the left. Yeah, see where that green arrow appears? If you drag to the right, there should be other commands there. Drag up to the arrow, up to the corner, to the right corner. Usually when there's an arrow, there's supposed to be some additional, but I'm not seeing it. So.
Well, I just got one word. Let's see if I can get the one
word. Can you right click on that one? No, I don't see it. I just saw those green arrows.
But I am seeing a little tiny arrow down here.
Yeah.
No. Okay,
Okay.
now
checked.
it says horizontal type tool.
I thought there might have been a sub thing there that would help you put a title on the picture.
And I think that probably after the lesson, when I look it up, I think I'm going to find it really simply. Here's one that says tool options. No, that didn't show me.
All right.
It is something very simple that I'm leaving out.
Yeah.
And I thought I thought I could do it automatically, which is why I didn't practice it enough to realize I couldn't do it automatically. So these are the main tools that I use when I do Photoshop, when I try to edit a photo that I have. And I think that generally speaking, it's very much worth doing. And I hope that we all have our chance of finding old photos that need to have a little bit of repairing and fixing done, that we can then use for not only Family Search, but for other purposes in our family. Like sharing with relatives.
Oh yeah.
Okay, did any of you think of something that you knew that I didn't share or that you had questions about as I've talked? Did anybody learn anything new or see an option of trying something new?
Yeah, I did.
Did you? Okay, because if you didn't get any ideas at all, then I'll know it wasn't a useful enough lesson for my knowledge level to teach people in an average time. So I'm glad you learned something, John. Any questions?
Nancy, this is Angel. I
Hi.
arrived late. What program does the Family History Library have?
Photoshop Elements.
Okay.
Photoshop Elements is not as extensive by any means as Photoshop itself, but it's much cheaper, and we have it at the Family History Center so that people don't have to buy it, so that stake members can go to the Family History Center and use it. Now, if any of you have a picture or two that you really wanted to work on and the Family History Center is closed, I bet if we were to ask Diane, we could figure out an answer for how you could use it for by appointment for a while.
I have a comment, Nancy.
Okay.
That much of like Adobe, Photoshop, and some of those have gone to a subscription thing, and they have an organizer. When you asked earlier, what organizer would you use? I would probably use Lightroom, and I worked a little in Lightroom, but the way it is now, you have to, you're kind of, they hook you into a monthly, you're making a monthly payment. So I just wanted to bring it up that there are some programs that you need to be aware of, that if you get into them and you're organizing all your photos on it and everything, your organization, if you ever drop your subscription, then even though you can switch those files to something, you'll lose your organization, because you have to have the program to keep the organization of your file.
That is very interesting. Okay, so when you load, and I think I'll take a minute to do it. I'm going to turn off Photoshop Elements, and I'm going to load Photoshop Elements. And you see Photoshop Elements, you can buy as a subscription, but you can buy it so that it's just on your computer.
Outright.
Now here is Organizer. And that is probably either the same or a very similar program to the one you're talking about. And so I had my choice of choosing Photo Editor, Organizer, or Video Editor, and I opened Photo Editor. But if I would have opened Organizer, then it's taking immediately photos from my my computer and giving me the option now of organizing them. And it has certain folders that I already have built into my computer, and it's giving me the option to organize them. Now, the advantage of using this, as Rick said, as a installed program on your computer instead of a subscription program, is that I wouldn't, if I was using this really and tagging every picture, I would not lose it if the subscription ran out. So, when I first got Photoshop with this feature available, I had so many photos, I didn't feel like starting to use it. And so what is here is just what it has done on its own as it's gone through my things. But I did not realize that with the subscriptions you would lose it. And I do not know what the price would be to have Photoshop or the bundle of programs that come with Photoshop, what the subscription cost would be. My son has the subscription to the Office, Word and presentation and whatever that come together. And he's given me, when you buy it, you can say how many computers you want. And so he's given me one of his computers for that subscription. I hope that I don't lose my files when that subscription expires. Now that's Word instead of Photos, but or Office. But I think that's something I ought to explore. Okay, any other questions? I'm going to stop my screen sharing. Jennifer Orchard, I see you've joined us. Is that Nina? And Richard, we're glad all of you came. I think it's time for a closing prayer unless somebody else thinks it's something that I ought to extend the lesson by doing.
You asked about using the Family History Center for this. If they will just contact one of us, I'm sure we can make an arrangement to between us to figure it out.
Well, and frankly, an advantage of that is that there wouldn't be anybody else in the Family History Center to bother you. You could spread out your photos. You could really dig into it and work on it.